Have you ever heard of a trial where the defendant was already dead? It sounds like something out of a macabre fantasy, but in the 19th century, posthumous trials were a very real, though rare, legal spectacle. This wasn't just about symbolism. These trials had tangible consequences for the deceased's family, reputation, and even their final resting place. Today, we're digging up the bizarre and fascinating history of trials beyond the grave. Let's step back into a world where the law's reach extended past the mortal coil. The 19th century was a period of immense social and legal change, but it also carried forward some ancient traditions. One of the most peculiar was the idea that a person could still be held accountable for their crimes even after death. This practice, known as posthumous sentencing, had roots stretching back centuries, most famously with the Cadaver Synod of 897, where a deceased pope was put on trial. While the 19th century was more enlightened, the specter of posthumous justice lingered. So why would anyone go to the trouble of trying a corpse or an empty chair? The motivations were complex. For one, there was the matter of property and inheritance. If a wealthy individual was accused of a serious crime like treason after their death, a guilty verdict could lead to the confiscation of their entire estate. This meant their family, their heirs, would be left with nothing. The state, of course, stood to gain financially, making these trials a powerful tool for political and economic maneuvering. Imagine the drama, a family's fortune hanging in the balance, all depending on the trial of their dead relative. Then there was the symbolic power. In an era deeply concerned with honor, reputation, and legacy, a posthumous conviction was the ultimate disgrace. It was a way to publicly shame not just the individual, but their entire lineage. A guilty verdict could tarnish a family name for generations. The trial served as a public declaration that this person, even in death, was an enemy of the state or a moral deviant. It was a stark warning to others: your legacy is not safe from the law. One of the most compelling examples from this era is the case of John C. Colt in the United States. In 1842, Colt, the brother of the famous firearm inventor Samuel Colt, was convicted of murder. Just hours before his scheduled execution, he took his own life in his prison cell. But that wasn't the end of the story. Despite his death, the legal process continued. The authorities proceeded with a symbolic form of punishment. His death was officially declared a suicide, but the public narrative surrounding him was one of a man who could not escape justice, even by his own hand. His legacy was permanently stained, a public spectacle that underscored the moral certainty of the law. This case, and others like it, blurred the lines between legal procedure and public morality play. Another fascinating case involves the practice of attainder in England. A bill of attainder was a legislative act that declared a person guilty of a crime, often treason, without a trial. If the person was already dead, this act would posthumously convict them, leading to the forfeiture of their lands and titles. While this practice became less common in the 19th century, its shadow remained. For instance, the conspirators involved in the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, who had died before being captured, were still subject to forms of posthumous condemnation. Their involvement was officially documented, ensuring their names were forever linked with infamy, and their families faced social and economic repercussions. The procedures for these trials were, as you can imagine, quite strange. How do you defend someone who can't speak? Often, a lawyer would be appointed to represent the deceased, arguing on their behalf. They would present evidence and cross-examine witnesses, just as in a regular trial. The courtroom would be filled with a sense of the surreal, with everyone acutely aware that the accused was absent, their fate being decided from beyond the grave. Sometimes, in a more grisly display, the body itself might be exhumed and symbolically present, though this was becoming exceedingly rare by the 19th century. More often, an effigy or a simple empty chair would stand in for the defendant, a silent testament to the law's relentless pursuit. These trials also raise profound philosophical questions. Can justice truly be served upon someone who can no longer experience punishment? Is it fair to punish a family for the alleged crimes of a deceased relative? The 19th century was grappling with these questions. Legal reformers began to argue passionately against the practice, viewing it as a barbaric relic of a bygone era. They contended that the law should concern itself with the living and that punishing the dead served no real purpose other than vengeance or greed. They argued for a more humane legal system, one that respected the finality of death. As the century progressed, these arguments gained traction. The rise of modern legal codes and a greater emphasis on individual rights led to the gradual disappearance of posthumous trials. The idea that a person's rights and liabilities ended with their death became a cornerstone of modern jurisprudence. By the dawn of the 20th century, the practice of trying the dead had largely been confined to the history books, remembered as a curious and unsettling chapter in the evolution of law. Today, the concept seems almost unthinkable in a criminal court. We have mechanisms to clear a person's name posthumously, such as posthumous pardons, but not to convict them. The focus has shifted entirely to exonerating the wrongly accused, restoring their reputation after death. This marks a complete reversal from the punitive spirit of the 19th century posthumous trial. So, the forgotten trials of the 19th century offer a chilling glimpse into a different world of justice, one where even death was no escape. They remind us that legal systems are not static. They reflect the values, fears, and even the superstitions of their time. These bizarre cases, where judgment was passed on the dead, show us just how far our understanding of justice, punishment, and human rights has evolved. What do you think? Is there any situation where you believe a posthumous trial could be justified? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and if you found this dive into legal history interesting, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more strange stories from the past. See you next time.